Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to cover the planned Sombra buffs for the PTR that Jeff Goodman posted to the forums last night. We're also going to be covering the apparent leak of Sombra's new summer game skin, or at least the gun part of that skin. And what's really fascinating about that is that it might also hint at the theme for this year's Summer Games. There is, after all, a little thing called a World Cup going on at the moment. Now, if you don't know, you can only see this gun skin on the PTR under very specific conditions. As pointed out by Reddit user BagOfChips42, who was the one that discovered this glitch, you have to have Sombra's golden weapon and be using her default skin, and when you go into Invis, you get a tiny glimpse of a skin with a Mexican flag on it. The common theory, as I said, is that these skins are linked to this year's World Cup, and that the Overwatch summer event of this year will contain skins themed around that event, with each one displaying the flag of whichever nationality that hero is. Being English, it's illegal for me to not be a football fan, so Blizzard, I expect a Tracer England kit or there's gonna be trouble. That's despite her already having some Summer Games skins. I hope some of the newer heroes, or heroes that didn't get skins last time, also get some this year. What do you guys think about this apparent Sombra skin leak? Are you excited for this year's Summer Games? Moving on, we're going to be dealing with those Sombra changes that are soon to be bound for the PTR. Now, obviously, we had San Francisco Shock's Dante on the channel last week to talk about the Sombra rework, and the TLDR of that conversation was that he wasn't all that impressed with what Blizzard had done. In fact, he even asked for the changes to be reverted, as he thought the old version of the hero was stronger. The reasons he thought that included infinite stealth wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, increased detection radius was a real problem for her, the speed decrease while Invis really slowed the pace of a hero who already had a lot of downtime, as well as a few quality of life things like not being able to cancel your reload with hack, which might rob you of the opportunity to get a big value playoff, and the fact that the enemies could very easily hear where your translocator was placed. Well, Uncle Jeff has brought good tidings for some of those problems, and I'm going to put them up on screen so we can go through them now. The changes are reverting the detection radius from 4 to 2 meters, you no longer need to look at the translocator to destroy it, you can now just hit the interact button and it will be destroyed. If you're standing on a Symmetra teleporter, hitting interact will only teleport you to Symmetra's other teleporter, rather than destroying your translocator. Dramatically lowered the enemy sound cue for the translocator location, you need to be nearly standing right on top of it now to hear it. EMP now works on Wrecking Ball Minefield, disabling the mines for 10 seconds, and you can now interrupt your reload by hacking. Jeff also said, "We're still evaluating the changes overall, but she's unlikely to regain the ability to contest objectives or have 75% more move speed while invisible." He continues, "The goal of these changes is to make her stronger overall, even if it means being slightly weaker in some areas." Now this is fascinating. There's some great news in there, including something Sombra players have been asking for a very long time. Let's just go through each change individually and discuss its potential impact. Firstly, let's talk detection distance. 4 meters was a lot. It came up in the interview with Dante that there was a lot of maps and geometry that Sombra couldn't actually navigate without being detected fairly easily. Maps with tight corridors like Numbani had become difficult for her with such a wide discoverability radius, but thankfully that number has now been reverted to what it was before. 2 meters is much more manageable, and despite being a reversion, is effectively a buff to this new infinite stealth Sombra. She'll now be able to get in better positions much more easily and give her the space when she is infiltrating to place her value much more precisely. The next two translocator changes are quite interesting. Not having to look at your translocator to destroy it seems at first to be just a quality of life change. But of the new changes, this is one that Dante actually liked. Being able to cancel it meant that you could outmaneuver enemies who might be camping it out, but crucially, without having to wait for it to expire like the old Sombra did. This is a change that gives the Sombra player more control and agency without constantly worrying about cooldowns, and the fact that you now don't even have to look at it to do that is a bonus. If, for instance, you were a long distance from your translocator, it could be awkward to find it through walls and geometry. Now you can do it simply with the touch of a button, that's much better. They also made sure to make it work with new utility that also requires a manual interaction. Going through Sim's teleporter requires the same button press, but in this case, going through that won't also cancel your translocator, so overall the mechanics work much more fluidly. This leaves you to concentrate on what's important, finding that impact. Also a straight up improvement is the lowered volume of the translocator passive sound. On the PTR now, it's actually not that hard to find just using your ears, which you might say is a problem because not only can they know where you are very likely to teleport back to with little effort, but also they can obviously destroy it now, which they couldn't do before. Jeff says that the enemy would have to be virtually standing on top of the beacon to be able to hear it after the change, which when you think about it makes much more sense. What good is an infiltrator hero who effectively has a block party sound system alerting everyone to where she might be in the very near future? I have to say, I'm still not completely sold on the fact that the enemy should be able to destroy it in the first place. Dante raised much more priority concerns for the hero, like poor damage, slow playstyle, and how hard it is in this meta to actually follow up on a hack. I don't think her translocator functionality ever made her oppressive or overpowered. Would it be totally outrageous for her to have infinite stealth and an infinite non-destroyable translocator? I don't think so necessarily. You'll have to let me know what you guys think about that issue. Next up is a very interesting piece of news. Sombra's EMP will now disable Hammond's mines from his ultimate for 10 seconds, fully half of their uptime. I suggested to Dante that Sombra was a good pick against Hammond, and he agreed, even calling her a possible hard counter, because despite Hack's comparative inefficiency versus burst damage heroes, it is good against Hammond. This change adds another reason as to why that's the case. Being able to negate one of the most powerful area denial ults in the game is certainly a strong piece of utility for her. So actually, when Hammond is released, perhaps we may see much more of Sombra than we have recently. 10 seconds isn't the whole ult, however, so you'll have to not take them for granted even if you use EMP. There'd be nothing worse than forgetting and walking back into them after you'd apparently won a team fight. Next up is a change I know a lot of high profile Sombra players, including Fitzy in particular, have been asking for. Sombra will soon be able to cancel her reload with a hack. That doesn't sound like much, but it's actually a big deal. Sometimes getting that vital hack off is way more important than shooting your weak damage. A hack isn't just for you, it's for your whole team to take advantage of. Fitzy used the McCree flashbang analog. Stunning that tracer or a Rhine over his shield at a vital moment can be a huge play, even if you yourself can't immediately follow up on it. Hack is the same, and it's great that Sombra players are finally going to be able to do this. All of these changes are pretty good, let's be real. They might not address some of her issues, like that low damage in a burst meta, or the slower pace of her kit flow, but they do represent significant improvements. The same cannot be said for what Jeff had to say about invis contesting and speed decrease. Blizzard are still evaluating, but they say it's unlikely these changes get reverted, which Dante, I'm sure, won't be thrilled about. To him, one of Sombra's most fundamental problems is how slow her game is. It takes time to manage your cooldowns, get where you need to be, find a key hack, and then hopefully get value. And that was with 75% speed increase in Invis. The way she is now, that pace is even slower, and that's a bit of a problem. Dante outlined that Overwatch is a very fast game. Having to do all this setup just to get a hack off doesn't really compare to the power of a Hanzo or a Widow pick, which they can do in an instant at any moment. As he puts it, it's about making plays, and a hero that has to wait all the time to make hers, which could not even be that great compared to insta-kills and struggles heavily against mid-fight res, might not be worth the investment. It is worth pointing out that part of this may just be us used to playing her one way for a very long time. The meta is changing and will change even more with Hammond and new Sim. So this slower paced game looks bad now, but it might not in the near future. This has happened before, where some hero changes have made a hero look weaker for a time, but with the context of a new hero have actually worked out well. Roadhog being changed a lot from the universe hooking insta-kill monster into a more rounded crowd controlled tank felt a bit odd as it was happening. That was until Doomfist came out, and then everything made a bit more sense. I'm willing to give Blizzard the benefit of the doubt for the time being. One thing I do think is a bit unnecessary is the not being able to contest while invisible. I never thought it was overpowered. It was fairly easy to work out what was happening. D.Va or Mei are much more annoying for various reasons in that context. But again, think about what's just around the corner. Hammond is a 600 health tank with no headshot hitbox, who can move faster than virtually anything else in the game, and who can make standing on point dangerous as he uses his grappling hook to turn himself into an actual wrecking ball. Oh, and don't forget, if your whole team is on point, he can suddenly have like 1,000,000 HP. There's going to be more than enough point stall in the game, trust me. In that light, Sombra also not being able to do so while completely invisible doesn't seem so egregious. Again, let me know what you guys think about that. Am I wrong to say that? Is that unfair on Sombra? I guess the only other thing to talk about are those key issues with Sombra that these changes don't really address. Following up on a hack, as Dante was very clear about in our interview, isn't as guaranteed as perhaps it should be for all the setup work it takes to do. Now perhaps we're running up against a difficult subject. Would most of the players enjoy playing against a very strong Sombra? I can hear the main tank player's answers in the comments already. She's a very hard hero to get in exactly the right place. Say if you did give hack an extra effect, say you gave the hack target 30% extra incoming damage, like a Discord, or the hack target has its armor or shields broken. Yeah, that would make it much easier to follow up on that hack, but would it be good for the game? Here's my opinion. I think the game is going to change very radically very soon. A lot of heroes have had their viability raised or lowered not by changes to themselves directly, but by what is happening around them. I think Sombra is the same. I think when Hammond comes out, she's going to get played and feel pretty strong, especially when you consider what Hammond can do to burst damage snipers. Widow and Hanzo are going to have a much harder time against that mobility tank than any others. Most of the time, they can't even land a headshot on him. With them perhaps being less dominant, there's more room for a specialized utility hero like Sombra, especially one who has an ability like Hack that can slow down Hammond's crazy pace. I'm going to be practicing her, is all I'm saying. And that's about it for now, guys. Like I said, this subject will probably make for some good discussion, so I look forward to reading the comments section. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time,